So, recently, I've been on a tear reloading 375 Ruger and shooting it quite a bit. So with the suppressor, it feels similar to, I don't know, like a stout 30-06 out of a light rifle. Not terrible, but, not something you want to be shooting a ton of. I think the suppressor does about as well as the muzzle brake it comes with. It's a decent muzzle brake, but it's obviously loud as hell and, kicks up dirt everywhere. It's fun to shoot, but it's a little hard on the shoulder, and it's a pretty expensive rifle to feed. So I was looking through my Lyman manual, and I was seeing there's actually some lead load data for this. They say the lead can be used for like inexpensive reduced recoil practice rounds or lower velocity rounds that can be used for deer hunting. So a full power 270 grain round can be pushed to around 2,700 feet per second, and that's a bit overkill for whitetail. Probably don't need 4,300 foot-pounds of energy. These low recoil loads are pushing a 260 grain bullet around 1,800 feet per second, so close to 1,000 feet per second slower, which calculates out to being around 1,800 foot-pounds of energy. This is pretty similar energy-wise to 30-30, but with, a larger bullet. So I wanted to try this out. Looking online, there seems to have been several producers of coated lead bullets in 375, but it doesn't appear many of these actually made it through the pandemic. The only two options I was able to find was Acme Bullets and the Hunter Supply, which I ended up choosing. I chose the Hunter Supply slick coat bullets as they seem to be a bit closer in design and weight to the what's listed in the Lyman manual here. They're 260 grains, so only 4 grains off the Lyman book. Also, reading the Hunter Supply website, the slick coat is like a clear polymer coat that apparently can be shot up to 2,000 feet per second and significantly reduces leading. They also say in their FAQ it won't actually let up suppressors. I mean, I'll believe that when I see it, but from my currently limited experience with lead bullets and rifles, significant reduction in leading means going from letting the crap out of your barrel to only leaving a moderate amount of lead in there. The other important thing is about these bullets is they're about half the price of the next cheapest jacketed round, so I'm hoping these will work. Now, I don't know crap when it comes to loading lead projectiles and rifle brass. I've done it with revolver rounds, and that's a whole different thing. I don't know if I need a universal expanding die, but I'm going to try this out, and I'm going to make a dummy round first. I don't want to find out halfway through that I'm shaving off a ton of lead with a bunch of charged cases. So first I'm just going to try chamfering the crap out of a resized case and see if that's enough. The bullets have kind of a recessed base, so they already sit in there kind of okay. So I think I can get away with just chamfering it. Well, hopefully the bullet sleeve will help out here. Okay, that didn't feel too bad. And doesn't really look like we're shaving off any material. What overall length am I looking for? 3.010. Okay, so that's significantly shorter than pretty much all the other jacketed rounds, which makes sense because, pretty different bullet profile. 3.188. All right. 3.015. So just barely longer, which is fine by me because I want to test this out in my rifle to make sure it's not jamming into the lands. The bullet seeder is not a great fit for this because we're getting a ring around the edge here, but I mean, I don't really care with these rounds. And it's nice because it actually lines up pretty well. It's kind of lines up with the crimping groove there, so not bad. 3.0150. Just going to zero it. Gonna kind of just guide it up in here and under the extractor claw. Slowly chamber it. Felt no resistance whatsoever. And slowly remove the round. Come on, give it up the round. There we go. Alright, I don't see any marks on the bullet. And we're zeroed out again. Does not appear it's jamming into the lands at all. So I think we're good to load these up. Powders for this are basically the 4570 powders you normally see. So I'm going to try out reloader number 7 since I have a giant jug of it. And they do also have it listed as being the most accurate powder. I'm definitely going to start off at the lower end of the charge range and work my way up because I've gotten into trouble with this in the past with this bottle of reloader number 7. They say the range is going to be 34 to 38 grains. And they list a max pressure of 20,000 CUP, so I'm about like a third of max pressure. So I don't think I'm going to have too much to worry about with this one. I'm going to load up a few at 34, 35, and 36 grains and just kind of see what those shoot like. And before I actually shoot any, I'm going to make sure to give my rifle a really good cleaning just so I can see how much these are actually like letting up the barrel. And, you know, I'm just going to do a couple rounds at each charge. Like, I'm not looking to optimize this. Again, I'm just looking for like a nice, comfortable practice round I can use that in theory I could use to actually like hunt a deer or something like that. But let's get these loaded up. Actually, well, hold on. What primer are they using, or does it differentiate? Large rifle, Magnum, and Standard. Does it specify which ones use the Magnum? Doesn't really say on here, but I guess I'll stick with the Magnum primers just because it's a pretty big case. It's not gonna have that much powder in it. But reloader number 7, like in a 4570 case, that doesn't need a Magnum primer. Let me check one more resource. So for these loads, looks like, so yeah, the Lyman cast manual just does Remington 9.5. So those are just regular large rifle primers. So I think I'll stick with that. That's concerning. So when I look at these ones, so the Lyman 51st has an overall length of 3.010 inches. Cast Bullet Book has an overall length of 3.220 inches, which seems too long based on the bullet shape. I think I would run into the lands with that. They both list the same pressure. I don't like that. I don't like that these are not agreeing with each other. This looks a lot more correct to me. Oh, this specifically says designates Remington 9.5 primer. So yeah, this one just uses the regular primers. Son of a bee. When was this published? They're both published like right around the same time. Well, I know this fits in my action. I would be legitimately worried about the longer one fitting in the action. You know what? Here. What I can do is use a inertial bullet puller and pull that a little bit. 3.25. Okay, so that is close enough for government work. So again, the Lyman cast says 3.220 inches long, 3.25, 3.218. Okay, so that's pretty close to 3.220. Let's see if this chambers in my rifle. I will say the bullet looks too long, almost. That's not even, okay, I'm not going to push that any harder. That's not even close to chambering. Oh, no. That was stupid. I shouldn't have pushed that hard. Okay, got it out. So yeah, that tells me that is the Lyman cast manual is way too long. So I'm not sure if that's an error or if this is just a really different bullet profile, but it looks really similar. And yeah, I see a couple marks on there. So yeah, I'm going to go with the Lyman 51st, I guess. So let's get those loaded up. All right, so got them loaded up. Little worried about the overall length, but this seems like the correct length to me, based on just how it looks. And I only had one where a little bit of lead started to shave off on one of them. I can't remember which one. I'll find it. But so yeah, I don't think I need to even bell these cases out. Just put a good chamfer on them. And so we'll see if this works. Anyway, I'll see you at the range. And just because these bullets were leaving kind of a powder everywhere, going to make sure to hit my work surface with some D-lead wipes just because I don't want my cat walking on this. So expecting around 1,730 feet per second. Let's see what we actually get. All right, so no idea where that hit. I might have to move to the 50-yard range for this one. Velocity is about what we were looking at. Recoil wasn't bad at all. Case is a little dirty around the neck and shoulder. All right, I'm going to try to aim a little bit more center mass at the target this time, or I might have to just put up a whole new target. That was a hang fire. And the case is pretty much filthy. So I don't think I'm really going to be shooting any more of these with that hang fire I got. Well, actually, so this is 34 grains. Let me try the higher load of 36 grains. Yeah, these are filthy. I don't know if there's much point in shooting the rest of these. That one felt quite a bit faster, or quite a bit more recoil on that one. And that one, the actual case is pretty clean, and there was no hang fire on that one. So that velocity is at least about where I'm expecting. Ooh, and that barrel is smoking hot right now, so I'm gonna let that cool a bit. Yeah, I'm thinking this is not a great idea. Okay, so these are actually, now that I look at the target, these are actually hitting pretty close to where I'm actually zeroed at with the full power 270 grain load. So accuracy is definitely not great, but it's not terrible for like lead projectile. The cases are filthy though. I'm mostly just shooting these just to get rid of them so I don't have to pull them. And I'm just going to clean my rifle really well when I get home. Yeah, no, accuracy is actually all over the place. So, what did we learn here? Well, the main thing I learned was I'm not going to bother trying with any more of these like reduced recoil lead rounds. Now, maybe at the top end of the charge range, it might start working better, but I think I was still getting hang fires even at the 36 grain point. So, not nearly as bad as the 34 grain ones I had right at the start, but still not great. As you can maybe see, the brass is pretty dingy and dirty from this. And those Hunter Supply bullets, they just have this weird like powder on them that just gets over everything. And accuracy was all over the place. I forgot to take a picture of the target, but I was getting about maybe minute of watermelon or minute of pumpkin, about that size of range. And velocities were all over the place. The 34 grain load had an average of 1,624 feet per second on just two shots with a spread of 114 feet per second. The 36 grain load was better. At an average of 1,710 feet per second with a spread of 88 feet per second. Now, lastly, I did shoot the 35 grain load, mostly just to get rid of it. I got an average of 1,641 feet per second with a spread of 90 on that one. So pretty terrible across the board, and again, noticeable hang fires at that 34 grain load. So I guess I could try this again closer to max charge and maybe switch over to Magnum primers, but I think I'm done with these bullets. They're just too messy, both in the way the brass looks and how the bullets get powder all over the place. Like again, 34 grain load, pretty dirty across like the whole top half of the case. 36 grain load, the case is a little bit cleaner, but shoulder and neck is pretty dirty. So just it really wasn't getting a good seal on it. I did have one good thing going for me though. Before I went out there, I loaded up my remaining 270 grain Hornady interlocks at 75 grains of big game. And I will say, so after I seeded that first bullet, I ended up taking my seeding die apart and cleaning it because the first bullet I seeded with it was just coated in that white dust from those like slick coat Hunter Supply bullets. The reason I loaded up those last 7 bullets was to sight in a new scope. I bought a cheap 4 to 12 scope since the LVPO I had just didn't have enough magnification for me to really be able to tell if I had an accurate shooting rifle at 100 yards. I think it would be fine for hunting, but my eyes aren't good enough to use that for load development. I had originally put on an LVPO because I had heard that those were like a good option for hunting or for dangerous game in Africa. It's one of those new Vortex Venom scopes. The glass is pretty clear, and I think it would work pretty well for an AR, but the center dot just isn't big enough or easy enough to distinguish. I think I would really need like a good duplex reticle for like dangerous game. Long story short, it appears even shooting from my kind of crappy bag, I was getting about 1 MOA with the interlocks. I think with like proper load development and using that ADG brass I have, I should have like a sub MOA rifle here. I think this rifle has the ability to be pretty accurate. I was fretting like maybe I should have gone with the Winchester Model 70 and 375 H&H, which was about $500 more than the Ruger. But, this rifle seems to be working just fine. And like in theory, the cartridge is a little bit better. I mean, for the most part, I've just been loading this 375 Ruger to 375 H&H levels. Hey, I figured that way, less pressure. Again, no reason to redline these. And this started me down the rabbit hole of like looking up 300 grain and 350 grain bullets, looking through forums on like hunting dangerous game in Africa, reading up on what bullets work well on buffalo, stuff about sectional density. It it really makes me want to work up some loads that I could like potentially take on an Africa hunt. Now, I mean, I don't think I can really afford to go on an African safari. It's expensive, like, you know, all in for a 7-day hunt. You're looking at like a minimum of 10 grand and likely more than that. But I was looking up like guided elk hunts, and it's really not that far apart in price. Like the main difference is I could drive to a place that has elk versus, booking a flight to South Africa or somewhere else. I mean, if I did want to go on a hunt, I'd have to start saving like now to book a hunt 2 years from now. But you know, I'm not getting any younger. I mean, I'm still in okay health, at least, healthy enough to hike around and carry a rifle a few miles. But, you know, that's kind of the fun thing about reloading these dangerous game rifles. It really gets your imagination running about, going on a Cape Buffalo hunt or, sitting in a blind waiting for a leopard to take the bait you put up in a tree at twilight. I don't know. Anyway, I wouldn't recommend the reduced recoil 375 Ruger rounds I tried, at least with the powder and charge I used. Thanks for watching.